Reading books aloud with children is one of the most valuable activities parents and teachers can do. Read-alouds can help build literacy skills, expand vocabulary, improve comprehension, and introduce the joy of reading for pleasure. How can nonfiction books best be used for read-alouds? We asked an expert. Meet Dr. Kari-Lynn Winters. She is a Caucasian, middle-aged woman wearing glasses and a striped shirt.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kari-Lynn Winters, and I am a professor at Brock University in St. Catharines, Ontario, and I am also a Canadian children's author.
What are the benefits of reading nonfiction books?
There are so many benefits, especially for children reading nonfiction books. It helps them understand and appreciate their own culture. It also helps them develop their own knowledge and expand their vocabulary, while also giving them their own agency for learning so that they can be creative and responsive. Nonfiction books foster curiosity for deeper understandings of the world and encouraging even our youngest readers to learn and explore about their surroundings.
How do you select the books?
So for me, when I select nonfiction books for read-alouds, I use an inquiry approach. I really think about the reader's needs, where they're at in their reading levels, but also their interests, because that forms the basis for the children being very engaged. The quality and the content of the books and the illustrations, for example, are also important. I like to pre-read before I read aloud so that I can ensure that the information is accurate and up to date and culturally responsive to the audience. I use books like this for read-alouds, which will enhance the inquiry approach. This is why the best ever question and answer book about nature, science, and the world around you. And then, or something like this for older kids, Can You Believe It? How to Spot Fake News and Find the Facts. So I chose this book because it's great for starting discussions with young children. There are lots of different questions about what is happening in the world and why it's happening. And it's a really great way for educators to gauge what interests children. This book is fantastic for those junior age children who are just really exploring the internet and really finding out about media. And it actually gives you lots of different activities and, starting points for discussion.
How is reading nonfiction books aloud different from reading storybooks?
There are nonfiction books that are more story-like. For example, this book, or this book, or even this book, Ladybug Garden. Often the purpose of reading a nonfiction book is to inform and to convey information while still engaging and entertaining the reader. Personally, I like, and when I'm writing, I think about this as well, I like the interaction that occurs with nonfiction books and young readers. I like to share quizzes, for example, fun featured facts, or even games. The flow of the presentation is a bit more flexible. So when you're reading nonfiction, you can sort of jump into the text or jump around depending on the reader's needs. You can move from an image to a diagram to a table, for example. And this flexibility allows for a more tailored experience and also deeper dives into topics that pique the children's interests.
How could you use a nonfiction book as a read-aloud over multiple days?
So first, I like to plan or to organize nonfiction books around a series of focused topics or themes. Sometimes nonfiction books do that for you. If you can just go to the table of contents and you can find the topics that maybe you want to talk about each and every day. So for example, with this book, which is about bees, you might ask on the first day, what is a bee? And maybe you would talk a little bit about what is the bee? What is the difference between a bee and a wasp, for example? You might also think about, where do bees live? So you can bring out another nonfiction book. Or, for example, what is pollination? So there's lots of topics. Or even, how do bees move? How do bees dance, for example? And why are bees important? Each session sort of leads into the next. And so you can start the discussion anywhere, and you can actually move amongst the topics. You don't have to go in order of the topics that are in the table of contents. You can allocate time and discussion and activities as well between each reading. It's enjoyable for children to get involved in readers' theater and to start sharing their own experiences through art or through discussion. And then this reinforces their own understandings of the world, but also keeps them engaged with the text over multiple days.
What are some ways that students could respond to a read aloud?
So possibilities for nonfiction readings are endless. I personally like artistic and artful responses, like illustrating concepts or creating music or creating poems. So for example, you could use a book like this and create a poem about backyard birds. You can also have discussions. So when the worst things happen, so you can have groups of kids working together to have grand conversations around these books. You might also invite artistic responses, sort of using this as a mentor text, for example, on how you can draw and paint like Ted Harrison. You can also do projects together, work together on projects, thinking about water and why we need water, or even thinking if the world were a village, and you can create a village with your own community, your own classroom. So there's lots of different ways that you can think about how you can respond with nonfiction. These varied responses ensure that the material resonates with individual interests, but also different learning styles. Another thing that you could do is you could use an enacted debate, for example. So you can become different roles in a community and have discussions in role. You can also create videos which make connections with the text and also synthesize information. For example, like a book review that you could video and they could share with their peers.
Why is it important to read Canadian books?
Canadian nonfiction helps Canadian children understand and appreciate their own culture, their own language, dialect, and situated local environments. Books like I Am Canadian, A Celebration, or Haunted Canada, scary stories that are truly Canadian, or even Jump, Leap, Count Sheep, about Canadian animals, makes information relatable and familiar. It also helps children from other countries or newcomers recognize diversity in cultures, language, dialects, and situated environments. It enriches their worlds too. In addition, reading Canadian nonfiction promotes local Canadian children's authors, illustrators, and publishers, which supports our national literacy and literary community. This not only boosts Canadian pride, national pride, and identity, it helps all readers become globally aware and responsive.
Thanks to Dr. Kari-Lynn Winters for sharing her expertise, and to Dr. Lori McKee, Associate Professor in the Department of Curriculum Studies at the University of Saskatchewan, for her guidance on this project. For more growing literacy tips and resources, visit the Canadian Children's Book Centre at bookcentre.ca. Thank you to the Canada Post Community Foundation for their support of growing literacy.